feel like this is the episode when it comes to getting into property for the first time. This is the episode, especially in the cost of living crisis that we're in right now. This is the episode that people want to see. It answers that question of like, how on earth is anyone saving up enough money to have a deposit to buy property? How? In this economy, how? Connor and I are in an absolute sprint season at the moment of saving money. We are saving 52% of our income, which looks like approximately $5,000 a month. I am going to break down exactly how we're doing that and how we are sprinting towards getting a deposit. I will also say that because I am a lawyer, the amount of money I need to put down as a deposit is a lot less. As a lawyer, and there are other professions out there that are similar to this, so make sure you check your profession, but you only need a 10% deposit. And there are other strategies as well that you can employ in order to be able to get onto the property ladder with even less than a 10% deposit. Before you freak out and you feel like a deposit and buying property is so far away, listen to this episode because I go through exactly what we're doing, savings tips, systems, how much deposit you actually need, LMI, absolutely everything you need to know about saving a deposit and getting into the property market. I'm so happy you're here with me. Thanks for joining me. I hope you love the episode. Let's get into it. Welcome back. Thanks for coming. Thanks for meeting me. Thanks for having coffee with me. I hate that I can't actually have coffee in this studio. You're not allowed food or beverage. But it would make it feel so much more like we were having coffee if I could actually have a coffee with you. That's okay. You can imagine. We can just pretend. So today we are actually doing the second episode of She's Into Property. I have actually debated whether making this its very own podcast and like talking about my journey, but then also getting guests on and like basically me serving as like your mouthpiece because I'm no expert in property. I am literally just starting out on my journey. I am discovering all about it and I'm a newbie and I just have like lots of questions and I really love it. I love the whole concept of it. I'm finding it really interesting to learn about. And so I thought like, how cool would that be to bring you along on that journey? And then I could have experts in so that I can actually give you some information or answers to questions that we both have. That's something I've been thinking about. I don't really have capacity to create a second podcast. But I think having the mini series for now, seeing how that lands, talking about it in that capacity, and then potentially down the line when I have a little bit more time or a little bit more money that I can pour into outsourcing so I don't have to edit myself. Literally all it would take is me actually doing the recording and prepping the episodes, which is probably still time that I don't really have in my calendar, but like at least if I could outsource all of that other work, because that is the most time consuming work, that would be really cool. So anyway, pending a separate She's Into Property podcast, you have this for now, this mini series. And I'm really excited that I decided just to launch into it and do a mini series about it because why not? Like, let's stop thinking about things. Let's just do it, you know? Cut the time between decision and action. Last episode, we talked a lot about the prep work, the mental prep work that goes into starting to think about property. And I put a whole episode into that for a reason, because for us, the prep work of mentally getting to the place where we could even think about taking action on property was really long. Like it took us a year, and before that we were thinking about property in the wrong way and we were like, oh, that's future us, it's not right now. I think that the prep work is such a big purchase and it's such a big investment and there's a lot to learn about, and it's something that if you make the wrong decision, if you buy the wrong property, if you rush into it, if you buy the wrong area, you're leveraging so much money that it can actually put you in a really, really bad financial position. So the reason I spent a whole episode on the prep work, the mental work, the learning is for very good reason. It is because you actually need to do that work before launching into it. And I know I literally just said, let's all work on like shortening the time between decision and action. But it is important that you learn about your investments before you invest. Maybe you don't need to take a whole year like we did. To be honest with you, for me, it's actually been longer than a year because it was when Henry was born, and Henry's almost 2. So 2 years of learning about it before we've been able to take any action. So that's too long in my opinion. But I have someone else on my team, my husband, who I needed to bring along on that journey. Spoke briefly about this last week. I was very keen, very bullish on property, kind of came out of nowhere. I just was like, this is what we need to do. And I had to kind of bring him along on that journey, and he needed to like get on the same page as me because we're a team. And yeah, anyway, so it probably was a little bit long for us. Also, on top of that, the main reason it took us so long as well is because we went through a lot of financial trauma last year, the last 2 years. The last 2.5 years, holy moly, it's been a really long time. Anyway, we're getting out of it. So that's also why it's been longer for us. Doesn't have to be as long for you, especially not if you have the right people guiding you. So you can have this little mini series helping you along the way, making it not feel so overwhelming. I'll be asking the questions that you have so that then we just can learn together. And then like if you find other podcasts and other books and really learn. So just briefly on that, I put them in the show notes of the last week's episode, but I will just mention it here because I didn't actually mention it in last week's episode. Some other good recommendations, I think I gave podcasts like My Millennial Property, which is now This Is Property, John Pigeon, and what's Pumped on Property, like my favorite podcast at the moment, Pumped on Property. Rich Dad Poor Dad is a really good entry level spot. Like if you were really right at the beginning, read Rich Dad Poor Dad because it's written in like a story-like way. It's not super financy. Is a great place to start. Just thinking about like why property and like the fact that your home is not an asset. I think that's where I first learned that, and that was like very pivotal in shifting my mindset because I grew up in Australia where your home is like the epitome of like you've made it, you're successful, you have your home. So that really shifted that for me, and yeah, really grateful for reading that book. So that's another recommendation. For the second episode of She's Into Property, and today we're going to be talking about how to save for a deposit, especially if you're on a low income, a middle income, how to actually get there, because that is the biggest hurdle, and I think it is the thing that puts people puts people off a lot. What am I trying to say? It puts people off about property. Like it makes property feel like it is completely unachievable. So I want to break that down, make it more achievable and more bite-sized and more like it so that property feels closer for you. So the very first thing, and it's always the first thing, no matter the context, no matter what you're saving for, whenever it comes to your finances, the absolute first thing that you have to nail, you have to get correct, is your mindset. You have to get your mindset right for any challenge that you take on in life, whether that's career, sporting, fitness, literally any hobby. Any challenge that you're taking on, your mindset is the first thing that you need to work on. So taking on the challenge of saving money is no different. You need to get your mindset right, and this is a crucial first step. It is really important to have a really strong reason as to why you are doing this hard work, why you are choosing the hard now, because saving money is really hard, especially in this world where we are bombarded with, you need to buy this. Like I went to the shops today, little side note, went to the shops today to buy some t-shirts for Henry for daycare. I knew that Kmart had like $3 shirts and I was like, I'm just going to go straight there. I'm going to buy those shirts. The minute I walk into the shops, like my senses are overloaded by, oh, I need that. I need a top like that for work. Or, oh, Henry needs a jacket like that. Oh, like you are bombarded by all of these things that you need, or like, oh, that person would love that. That would make such a good gift. Should I get it right now? Like you're just like bombarded. And because the shops go on such a quick cycle, you have this scarcity, this fear that like, well, it's there right now. And like when I come to buy it, it's not going to be there. Once I save for it, it's not going to be there anymore. So you're bombarded in that respect. You can just avoid the shops, sure, but social media, it's all over, and it's the same. Like a lot of brands are employing that scarcity tactic, which I think is very clever from a brand business perspective. But for a consumer, we have to be so alert and so aware of what is happening in that space, because it is impacting us in terms of it's impacting like our future, and like, is our future worth sacrificing in favor of like a few items? And like, how, the other thing to think about is like, how much do you really need it? Is it a need, or is it a very, very, very strong want disguised as a need? Most of the time for me, it is a want disguised as a need, because our brains are very clever at tricking us once they've decided that they want something, once our emotions have taken hold. So it's, whenever we talk about savings, it's super important to get your mindset right and to know why you're doing it, to think bigger picture, and to understand your own behavioral habits, all of the psychology around money, because saving is hard and you need to do it consistently in order for it to be successful. Kind of the same as anything, really. You need to do things consistently for it to make an impact. You need to eat well consistently for your health and your gut health and everything to be improved. You need to exercise consistently for your muscles to be able to support your back and not get back pain, or for you to be able to lift up your children. You need to be doing it consistently. You can't just do it like for 3 weeks and then not again. It's like, consistency is important, and saving is the same. So in the same way that we don't go all in on a super strict diet, we don't go all in on working out every single day, we do it like 3 times a week or 2 times a week, or even just once a week to start off with. And that's the same approach you have to kind of take with savings, and then build on that, because otherwise it won't last. And the first thing to really think about is like, so why are we investing our money? Why are we investing in property? Why are we doing all of this? Like, why are we so obsessed with wealth building? I'm not building my wealth to be wealthy. We're not building our wealth to be able to buy cars, have the biggest, most beautiful house, have fancy clothes. That is not why we are going down the path of financial freedom. I think money has such a bad rap, and like, people with money are immediately written off as bad people. But the reality of the world is that we need money to survive and to look after our family. We need money to have a roof over our head. Rent is freaking expensive. Mortgages are going up. So whether you rent, whether you own your home, it's expensive to have a roof over your head. The grocery stores, we can all agree that going grocery shopping, getting food to put on our table to feed our children, is getting more and more expensive. Electricity. I feel like every facet of our life is like, everything is so expensive. So that is the reality of the world. The cost of living is rising, and even if it wasn't, we still need money to live day to day. And a lot of people live in stress, just trying to provide those 4 walls, just trying to provide utilities, car, transport, a roof over your head, and food and clothing. Those things are like, that causes a lot of financial stress to a lot of people. I think to more people than what you and I would expect. I don't think it's a bad thing to want to pursue wealth in order to not be stressed about literally providing for our family. But the other side is that the reality of the world is that the best way you can have the biggest impact on the people around you is to have money, is to have the luxury of having money to pour into someone in need, to give generously, and not just with money, but with time. Because what money does is it buys back your time. It gives you freedom. If something happened to a family member, we have family and friends in another state. If something went wrong right now, currently, it would be really hard, and it would put our family in a tremendously difficult position if we had to take leave and fly up and see them. It would be really hard. It would put us under a lot of stress and a lot of financial stress, which then leads to emotional stress. If we had money, if we had security, if we had financial freedom, you could do that no problem. Oh, I don't have annual leave left. No worries. I'll just take leave without pay. No worries. That's okay. Oh, that means that you're going to fire me? Okay, no problem. Like, that's extreme, but those sorts of things do happen. Those sorts of conversations happen, because if you have to take leave without pay and they're like, oh, I don't know, they're putting the pressure on. If you know you're financially free, if you know you're financially stable, you have financial peace, you don't worry about that. You're like, okay, no problem. I'm still going to do this because my family need me. I'm still going to do this because my best friend needs me. You would not have the stress, because the other option is they put the pressure on and you go, well, I have to go, so I'm going to go. And now while I'm up there, not only am I stressed dealing with whatever's going on, but I'm also stressed because I know when I come back I might not have a job. So you're freaking out. If you had financial peace and financial freedom, you'd be like, okay, cool, well, I'm sorry you feel that way. I'm okay with it. I can survive if I don't have this job, right? So that is the reality of the world. And I don't think pursuing wealth for those things is bad. The only way you can be outrageously generous with your time and your money is to have financial freedom and financial peace. I want to have a life where my children feel like I am available on call. I want them to really understand and believe and like not even question that mum and dad are going to be home, you know, when they get home from school, and they're going to be available for them to talk about the things that are going wrong. That on the weekends they have someone to turn to, that they're not running off and getting into trouble because there's no one around. I want them to feel like they're the most loved children in the whole world. And how do you do that? It's not by giving them stuff and by having a big fancy house and a beautiful car. It's not about that. It's about being able to be fully present with them and not be stressed. Because when you're present with them, the back of your mind is worried about your job. I don't think that makes me a bad person, because I want the best for my children and for my friends and my family around me, and I want to be able to show up as the best possible person for them. I want to be able to show up and be a source of stability. That's something else that Connor and I talk about so often. It's like being this source of stability for people. Like, how good would it be if you knew you had a friend who they were so stable, they were so grounded, that every time you spoke to them, you came away feeling stable and grounded. Every time you spoke to them, you came away inspired and feeling like you've got this. Every time you spoke to them, you knew that if you ever had a problem, you could stay with them. If you ever had a problem, we've got you. Don't worry about it. We've got it. We've got it covered. Not even a second thought. That is the kind of friend that I want to be. I am an emotional mess today. This is the second time I've cried today, out of the blue. Oh my gosh, honestly, I cried today in Best and Less when I was looking for t-shirts for Henry, because I saw all the newborn clothes and I was like, oh, I want another baby. And I just started crying because I know it's not possible for us right now. Oh my gosh. Wow. Like, it's not even that time of the month, guys. What's going on? I'm balling over here. Oh boy. Anyway, so yes, Connor and I imagine that all the time. Like, we fully have this picture of like someone needs to come and stay with us, and we like, you know, we go and pick them up from the airport and we bring them back, and the house is warm and all the lamps are on, and they've got their own room with like really comfortable bed and comfortable pillows, and you know, there's like a little robe for them. Like, we just want it to feel like their home. Like, we want our home to be so peaceful, and us to be so innately peaceful and so innately calm and stable that that feeling is like passed on to them. Our business is still the goal. Having a business to pour money into giving and having time is still the goal. I think the most effective way of achieving financial freedom and like freedom over my time. But what we have worked out in the last 5 years since trying to start business is that we need to build a business from a place of stability. And so we have turned to property to be that secure base for us. So property, we have learnt, can replace your income so that it can provide for your basic needs: home, food, clothes, utilities, car. So we are using property as a financial base, a financial foundation, so that then we can take risk with business and build a big business. When we were younger, we turned to shares to kind of provide that stability. Shares for us was like a 40-year plan to get us to retirement, right? We started when I was about 25, a bit earlier, but like say 25 plus 40 years, 65 years old. So that's like that was our retirement plan, investing only $300 a month, 8% on it as a conservative return gives just over $1 million in 40 years. That's if you do it consistently. We have stopped and started because of our financial situation, whatever. That is like the concept when you look at this compound interest calculator. We used that because we believed, incorrectly, but we believed the property was too far away for us. It was out of reach and we didn't have enough income, blah, 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 blah. We were wrong. We should have done our research. That was our mistake. And that is what the first episode is all about. Because I know now, I know lots of stories of people with lowish incomes, 50, 60K a year, who are able to get into the property market, right? So let's just, before you ride something off, this was what the first episode was all about. Before you ride something off, do your research, speak to people, find out what the scenario actually is. Anyway, we're here now. Start where you are, do what you can, use what you have. That is what I repeat to myself all of the time. And so now we are looking to save a deposit. We are currently saving 52% of our household income to put towards property. Our household income is $9,000 a month after tax, and we are saving approximately $5,000 every month. I will preface that we have the absolute privilege of living at my parents' home. We pay our share of the utilities and make a small contribution to rent, but we effectively are rent-free. We've done the numbers, and if we were having to pay rent at this time, we would only be able to save $2,000 a month. Staying at my parents' place automatically saves us $30,000 a year. That is absolutely huge. So we are absolutely doing everything that we can to make sure that we are getting the most out of living here. We are saving as hard as we can. We're in an absolute sprint season so that we can take the full advantage of the opportunity we've been given to live here. I know that this is a huge privilege that not everybody has. Goes without saying that two things can be true. It can be an absolute privilege and a sacrifice at the same time. It's a sacrifice for our relationship and for our little family unit in some ways, where we don't get to establish ourselves and put our roots down. So we're doing absolutely everything that we can to make sure that we're making the most of it and saving as much as we possibly can. So let's talk about how we're saving money outside of the $30,000 a year that we're saving on rent, because not everybody has this opportunity. So how are we saving that extra $2,000 a month? And if you are living at home, not paying rent, really consider making the most of this time and work out how much your rent would be, and at least have that as an aim for your year in savings. First thing you need to know is how much of a deposit you actually need, because this is where we were also mistaken. I always thought you needed a 20% deposit. That is not the case. There are a few different scenarios that can come about, which means you need a much lower deposit. So, for example, there is a process available whereby people can enter into the property market with only a 10%, 15 or 10% deposit, with or without lender's mortgage insurance. Lender's mortgage insurance is something that your bank will take out to basically insure itself against the risk of you. Because you have not given 20% cash, you're only giving 10% cash, as an example, you are a riskier person to take on for the banks. you might not repay your loan because you haven't forked up the 20% deposit. So they have taken out insurance against you, basically, so that they're happy to give you the loan with only a 10% deposit. You have to pay for that privilege to be able to get a loan at less than 20%. Make sure you do your research because these sorts of things change all of the time. I think there is a bank out there that allows 15% with no LMI, and depending on what profession you are in, you may not have to pay LMI. Pause. Is LMI a terrible, really bad thing that should be avoided at all costs? In my opinion, not particularly. I see it as a cost of doing business, as a cost of entry, something that you have to pay in order to get into the game, in order to get on the ladder. I think it is worth shifting your perspective around LMI because everyone talks about it like it's this dirty thing that should be avoided. But it is actually a tool that you can use to get into the property market sooner. Pause again. It's really important to remember everyone's goal is to get into the property market, right? Everyone's like, you just have to get in, get on the ladder, get your deposit, then you're good. Save really hard, get your deposit, then you're good. What you have to remember is you actually have to keep paying the mortgage. You actually have to be able to service your loan. It is really important to run the numbers properly and understand that you can actually service your loan and you can make the repayments. You do not want to put yourself in financial hot water. It's not worth the risk of being super financially stressed for the next 15, 20, 30 years because you have taken on a loan that you cannot service. I think when we're talking about LMI versus not LMI, 20% deposit versus 10% deposit, it's important to realize that yes, you might be able to get in with less deposit, but that will mean your repayments are higher because your loan is higher. So yes, you get in faster, but can you service that loan? If you can't save the deposit, can you put enough money every week aside for this property? Something to really consider. I'm not saying don't do it. I'm a huge fan of it in one respect. I think that it is a tool that you can use in order to get into the property market, which is fantastic. When we are considering whether to use it or not, you should very seriously analyze your figures and your numbers to know that even with rate hikes, if the rates were to go higher or not, like whether you can afford this mortgage. Okay, now that that's out of the way, let's get back to it. So you need to know how much deposit you will need. You need to then speak to a broker, someone who can help you analyze your income and look at how much of a deposit you need to put down. Something else to understand is that you can use a guarantor. A guarantor can be used in order for you to get into the property market with only a 10% deposit, for example, without having to pay LMI. This is where a lot of people get their assistance from parents, and this is what my parents are going to be doing for us. I am so grateful. I am so beyond grateful that my parents have offered to do this for us, because my whole life my mum said that she would never do that. She would never go guarantor for someone. The risk is too high and it can put family relationships at risk and be, risk of tension. But after seeing what we went through in the last few years, my parents have very generously offered to go guarantor for us for our deposit. Now, the other thing to note is that I am a lawyer, and so my deposit only has to be 10%. This is great, right? All of these things are great. They allow me to get into the property market sooner. Like I said, the problem is that then we are not putting any cash into the loan, which means the interest rate that we have is on the full amount of the loan, and that means our repayments are a lot higher. So the more deposit you can put down, the better. It's really important to know that these options are out there, but also where you can, putting more deposit down. Knowing that the options are out there, running your figures, doing your homework with your money, like playing with all of the figures, it's all really important. So let's do a quick example, okay? Say you want to buy a $500,000 property. Unlikely in this economy. Let's go with a more realistic example. Say you want to buy a $700,000 property. LMI payable on this is from the Westpac, LMI stamp duty, In order to avoid LMI, you would need a 20% deposit, which is $140K if you bought a $700,000 property. Now, if you're okay with paying LMI, you could then halve that. So say $70K. Those numbers become a lot more achievable in terms of the deposit. Then you have to think about the fact that you'll need to pay LMI on top of that, or add it on to your loan. Speak with the broker, figure out what you actually need to do before you write off being able to buy a property. I think that's the biggest thing. Like, saving blindly for a deposit, knowing that you want to get into property, you're not going to have the motivation if you don't even really know how soon you can get into the market, how much money you need. Like, when we were just saving for a property, in quotation marks, and we didn't have any of these clear figures, we didn't know what we needed, we didn't know when we were aiming to buy a property, we were just saving for a deposit so that we could consider buying a property. Like, of course those savings then got used. Of course those savings went into other things that came up. You need to be able to have clarity and like real direction when you're saving. You need to have a timeline and you need to know how much you're saving. Otherwise, it just becomes like this weird, vague goal that you can't really stick to. So sit down, look at the numbers. It's actually quite a simple process. Like, just doing this right now, quite a simple process. Like, 20% is 140K. Unlikely that you're going to be able to save 140K in the next 2 years. That's a long time. Like, unless your income's very high, it would be really hard to save 140K. Like, even us right now, we're living at my parents' place, so we don't have to pay rent, living very tightly. We have a household income of 65 plus 96. So we have a combined household income of $161,000, not including super. Obviously, then you get taxed on that. So what you actually see is a lot less. Basically, we bring home $9,400 a month. Because we don't have to pay for rent currently, we just pay utilities, groceries, like little bills, but we don't have to pay for rent. So right now we can save $5,000 a month, and that is like us being very frugal. That is literally covering our expenses like rego, insurance, phone bill, medical things, Henry's, nappies, clothes, etc. Like, that's covering all of our expenses across the whole year. So then we can put aside safely, knowing that we won't need to pull it out, $5,000 a month into our savings account. So that means that over the course of the year, we can save $60,000, which means over the course of 2 years of us living at my parents' place, being extremely frugal, we would only just be able to save 120K. So I think saving 140K, if you're only just starting now, saving 140K on less than $160,000 a year is going to be difficult, because you are looking at like a 3 to 5 year game plan of saving, and saving really hard. I'm not saying it's not possible. I'm just saying that feels hard, and I can see why people go like, that is just so far out of my reach, that is so far out of the realm of possibility that like I'm not even going to try. That is a natural human instinct to be like, that's so hard, so unachievable. I'm just going to focus on my little life right here, and like maybe investing in shares, but otherwise just saving money just to get by and then spending the rest. Firstly, like when you're looking at your figures and looking at this, like try not to get overwhelmed. Like if you are looking at a 140K deposit, that might be overwhelming. So then go, okay, well, how about we do half that? We go with a 10% deposit and willing to pay LMI. So LMI on a 10% deposit, 10% deposit would be 70K. So say you have $70,000 and it's an investment, your first home buyer, it's a $700,000 property in Queensland, okay? So let's see, what would your LMI be? Your LMI would then be $28,000. Or is there someone in my household, in my family, that could go family guarantor? And the good thing about family guarantor is that you don't have to guarantor the entirety of the loan. You just guarantor the deposit. And so once your property reaches a certain percentage of equity, then the guarantor gets taken off. So normally it's about 80%. Once there is about 20% equity in the property, the guarantor can be taken off the loan. So you can either do this by buying in a good area that's going to grow in a few years, or you can do it by, say, like going really hard at paying down the loan so until you get to that 20%, and then your guarantor can come off. Someone is definitely putting up risk and doing you a very big favor, and in that scenario you then need to take responsibility and make sure you're not taking out a loan that is too much for you to handle, that you will not be able to repay, because that will pretty much screw over your guarantor. Make sure you do your homework properly, that you have run your numbers and it's really tight, and you know that no matter what you'll be able to make those payments, because otherwise your guarantor is screwed over. But it's definitely something to consider if you have that potential. The other option is to go a 5% deposit, so 30, this is all on the bank that you have, $35,000 on a $700,000 property. Your LMI is going to be $30,000, so then you only need $60,000. Now, $60,000 is seeming a lot more achievable, isn't it? It feels like you can actually get into the market before the prices rise again, right? $60,000, we could do that. We could do that in the next 2 years if we saved really hard and we really delayed our gratification and we really chose the hard now so that we didn't have to live a hard life forever. We can really see how when you start to break down the numbers and you know what options are available to you, things become a lot more possible. The other thing to do is to have a time frame. So the thing that I have been talking a lot about with one of my really close friends is that the time is going to pass anyway. So right now we're 30, we're both not in the property market yet, and if that feels big, it feels like we're behind in life, and we're I've only just gotten my job now, so I have a higher income now, but I didn't have that for a really long time. It was how are we ever going to get into the property market? This really strong feeling of how are we ever going to do this? What I had to do to battle that scarcity mindset, to battle that limiting belief in my mind, was to think about it like this. Yeah, it might take me 5 years to save this deposit and get into the property market, but that time is going to pass whether I save the money or I don't. And in 5 years, think about how quickly the last 5 years went. Where were you 5 years ago? Think about it. To me, 5 years ago feels like a few months ago. It literally, 5 years goes so quickly. And imagine yourself in 5 years from now and you haven't made any progress. You haven't saved any money. You're no closer to buying a property than you are right now. Just sit with that feeling for a minute. How devastated would you be? Knowing what you know about property, knowing what it can do for you, the fact that property leverages so much more money. I didn't talk about this earlier, but so I talked about why I was building my wealth and the fact that I went with shares, but now we're shifting to property because you can leverage so much more money, so you can make more money. Because you're playing with hundreds of thousands of dollars rather than thousands of dollars. What you can generate from property is so much bigger, which means that you can reach financial freedom so much faster. Imagine this. Right now, you're listening to this and you're looking at those figures and you're feeling like it's really unobtainable, unachievable, and you're never going to get there. So then you decide, that's future me. This is exactly what I did 5 years ago. So if you're thinking this right now, you're not alone. I did this very exact thing. I was that much money is very unachievable. I'm just going to put that on the back burner. Property is not for us right now. Property is not for us until we have super high incomes. It's not for us right now because, millions of reasons, because it felt really out of reach. Then picture yourself 5 years from now. You have not made any progress on your savings because you made the decision not to try, and so you haven't made any progress. And then you're staring down the barrel of the next 5 years, the next 10 years, and you're how am I ever going to do this? How am I ever going to get into the property market? Am I going to have to work forever? Am I going to have to do my 9 to 5 forever? Just think about how that feels. It is better to save $25,000 over the next 2 years than to have saved nothing. It is better to make some progress than to have done nothing. So even if it's going to take you 5 years, at least you got there. And then you won't look back 5 years from now, which it'll feel like 2 months. You won't look back and be like, why did I not just start? Okay, so we know the figure. We know the timeline. We know how much we can save. And we know that the likelihood of our income going up between now and 5 years is pretty high. So potentially our savings could increase, which means even though you're looking at a 5-year plan, could end up being only 3 years because your income goes up. We know where we're headed. We know how long we have to do it. Now, how do we actually make that happen? How do we actually get the money to go from our income into our savings and stay there, not come back out? That is the $1 million question, right? Because saving money is really hard. It is actually really hard. It is a battle with yourself every day. We only have so much decision-making power every single day. It's actually a capped thing. So this is why when you're trying to do a diet, for example, you will be really good all day and then you'll get to after dinner or get to the end of the day and suddenly you binge and you undo all of your progress. The reason is because you have reached your decision fatigue cap and you don't have the power to fight yourself anymore. You've fought yourself all day and now your willpower has expired. This is an actual real thing. We have a cap of our decision-making power. What that means is that we need to pre-make the decisions. The first step was getting your mindset right. Secondly, it is all about limiting decision fatigue. Something that I think is integral to our success in saving money, because I will say in all of our failures, in all of the mistakes that we've made, saving money is something that we have shown time and time again that we are able to do even when we were on a low income, we were still able to save money. And I think that really comes down to A, mindset, and B, the system. Implementing a process that limits that decision fatigue. We only have so much decision-making power every day. And literally every tiny decision that you make eats away at that decision-making power. So by the end of the day, your capacity to make decisions is very low. And this is often why people find that they fail with their dieting or their commitment to exercise if it's in the afternoon. It's the same when it comes to saving money. You decide that you're going to save money, but you haven't implemented the right process. And so every single time you have to tap or you have to buy something, you have to make that decision in your head. Am I going to buy this or am I going to sacrifice and save that money? You're making that decision over and over again. And you forget how many times in one day you have to make that decision. It starts from the moment you get up in the morning. Before you leave for work, you have multiple decisions about spending money already before you're even in front of a checkout. You have to decide, do I have time to make my coffee and sit and have coffee? Or do I need to make my coffee on the go and take it with me? Have I prepared my lunch? What am I going to take for lunch today? Do I have time to prepare my lunch? These are all questions that you're going through in the morning before you've even started your day properly. If you leave the house, you've decided that you don't have time to make coffee and you don't have time to make your lunch. You've made the decision that you're either going to not have coffee or buy coffee, not have lunch or buy lunch. You've pretty much already made that decision because for any coffee drinkers out there, you understand it's quite difficult to go through the day without any coffee. And also, you're a human being and you're doing hard work and you need to eat. But if you are trying to save money, you've actually put yourself in quite a precarious position for your mindset and for your system, because your actions have actually made the decision for you. You're most likely going to buy that coffee and you're going to buy lunch. But when it comes to it, it's going to be lunchtime. It's getting to mid-morning and you haven't had coffee yet. And you're like, I really feel like I need coffee. Do I really want to spend the money on it? You're going through that decision-making process again. Eventually you cave because you're a human being and you're tired and you're trying to do work. So you go and buy the coffee. Even at the checkout, you're still kind of agonizing. Oh, should I really be doing this? Should I not? Then it comes to lunchtime and you're like, oh, I didn't bring my lunch today. Should I skip lunch or should I just go and buy something? What should I get? What's going to be cheap? Like all of these things take up so much decision-making power in your brain. So much so that come evening time, once you've finished work, and it was probably a hard day at work that also involved lots of decision-making, come evening, you are then faced with the decision to make dinner yourself or buy dinner. Or you are faced with the decision to make dinner with ingredients you already have, or make the dinner that you're really craving, but that means you have to go and buy new ingredients. Or you're sitting on the couch, relaxing, scrolling Instagram or TikTok, and someone is wearing a beautiful blue sweater and you've been looking for a blue sweater for so long. Suddenly you find yourself on the Iconic scrolling through blue sweaters, and inevitably it gets added to your cart. And in some cases, it gets purchased. This happens in the evening when you're tired and you're relaxing and you're doom scrolling or you're watching TV, because we are way more susceptible to marketing and to just being tired and not being able to fight the urge to spend money and to feel like I deserve to spend money, even though you've been spending money all day when you said that you weren't going to. When you look at it from the lens of fatigue and decision fatigue, it's really easy to see how we can get ourselves into these spending spirals, even when we had resolved to not do that. I think like if you look at it from a decision fatigue lens, it's easy to view yourself with a lot of compassion, knowing that like scientifically, you only have so much decision-making power in a day. And unless you have the system set up to avoid making all of those decisions from the minute you get up in the morning, you're setting yourself up for failure. So for example, something that we do is we have a plan for our money, where it's going to go every single month. We know exactly where our money is going, and it's not a plan that changes. It's the same every month. We also have pre-allocated ourselves coffee money, lunch money. We know if it's a morning where we didn't have time to prep lunch the night before, we don't have to worry about, oh, what are we going to take for lunch? We just go, that's okay. It's a buying lunch day today because we have money in the account and we can afford to do that. It's something that we have accounted for. It reduces that decision fatigue. Even as something as small as just before you go to bed, have a look in the fridge and think about what you could take for lunch tomorrow. You can put it aside, or you can even just think about it. Like, obviously it's better to meal prep and to have it put aside, easy to grab, but even just thinking about it the night before will really help you in not having to make those decisions first thing in the morning. So with our system, we make our decision once about what we're going to spend our money on. We make that decision every month when we get paid by following the plan and sending the money into their sinking funds or folders so that we know that that money is allocated. We never leave decision making about our spending to be in the moment, because without a doubt, it is in the moment decisions when you're actually at the checkout deciding, should I get this or should I not? That's where we fall down. If you leave the decision making to in the moment, you're so much more susceptible to your feelings. How am I feeling? I'm not feeling great today. I'm feeling grumpy. I'm feeling sad. I need a little pick-me-up. I need a little sweet treat. I need a little retail therapy. Like, you use your spending in order to make yourself feel better, which is totally okay. But if you're not careful and you don't have a plan to allow for that sort of spending, it is very easy for all of your money to get eaten up purely based on your feelings rather than a system. The third thing that we do is we save up for pretty much normal everyday purchases. Because of our money plan with our sinking funds and the way that the money gets filtered through this system and pre-allocated, before we buy anything, we make sure that we have money allocated for that thing. So for example, we have a Henry fund, and every month when our money filters through the plan and into sinking funds, a portion of it lands into Henry's sinking fund. That means that on any given day in the month, when I realize, hey, those shirts are suddenly too small on Henry because he's growing as fast as the bloody Jack in the Beanstalk, I am able to pop out to the shops and buy him a handful of new t-shirts that actually fit because I have money in his sinking fund. I don't have to make a decision about doing that. The decision has been pre-made. I don't have to engage any sort of feelings of guilt or shame or I should be buying this, but I should be saving money. None of that. It's just, it is alleviated from my brain. I don't have that burden of thinking about, I really need this, but should I buy it or should I not? Because it has already been pre-decided and the money has been allocated through our little filtration system. We all have the best intentions and we all think that we're going to get up at 5 a.m. tomorrow and go for a run, or we're going to go to that gym class at 5 a.m. tomorrow. We all think that's going to happen because we have the best intentions. But then the time comes around, the alarm goes off and we hit snooze. The same thing happens with our savings. We have the best intentions. We're like, we're going to save $500 every single week. And I'm not going to buy any coffee and I'm not going out to eat with friends. I'm not going out for drinks. I'm not buying any more clothes. I'm done. I'm sick of living like this. I'm going to save my money. You berate yourself and you feel a lot of shame and you say, I am going to save so much money. I'm going to do it really, for the next 5 years, I'm not buying any more clothes. So you do it. The first month you do it, you save all your money. So good, going well. The second month comes around and it's your friend's birthday and she's your best friend. She's turning 30. You can't not go. I didn't leave money aside for that. I guess I have to pull that money out. The next month rolls around and your car breaks down. Damn it. Now I have to pull into my savings again. Okay. That's all right. I'll just have to pull it out. It's all good. I'll keep going. I'll keep saving. By the third month, you're feeling really freaking tired of saving because you're looking at how hard you're working. You're looking at the everyday. You're feeling it every single day because you're fighting yourself every single day. And you think you're working so hard. When you look at your savings account, you've barely moved. How is that possible? You've been putting away $500 a week. How is it possible that your savings has not gone up that much? What's going on? The problem here, what has happened here, and I know because this happened to me so often, the problem is that you are doing all of the hard work, you're saving really hard, you're going to extreme lengths, so it feels painful and it feels like you're doing it. But you haven't accounted for all of these things that come up. You haven't accounted for decision fatigue, for when you're miserable and you just need to spend some money to make yourself feel better, for friends' birthdays or events, or the fact that you actually do need to socialize because you're a human being who needs human connection. So you actually need to socialize. You forgot to account for your car breaking down or your laptop dying. You haven't accounted for these things, for losing your phone. You haven't accounted for putting on weight. So then that means you need to buy another pair of jeans, and jeans these days are like $200. You haven't accounted for getting that new job, which actually now means you have to go and buy a lot of corporate clothes. You can't set these unrealistic goals and be like, well, I'm just not going to spend the money. Like, you can't say, well, I'm just not going to hang out with my friends, because then you're not going to have any friends. Even if you think about the friends, going out with friends example, like, yeah, okay, you can decide not to go out for drinks, which is going to be expensive. You can decide not to go out for dinner. You can say, come on over. Just come to my house. I'm trying to save money. Let's come to my house. You still need to eat. And as human beings, we eat and drink socially. And so even when you're doing it in a cheap way, even if you're both bringing food and you're both whatever, you still are paying for that food, okay? You still need to have money aside, because I can guarantee you when you get those cheese and crackers out, that is an extra in your grocery budget that you didn't account for that fortnight. You didn't account for it. All of these things add up, and it feels like only once or twice. And you're trying to rack your brain. Like, I only got lunch at work that like 2 times. Like, I can't, how is this happening? I'm working so hard every single day. How is it not being reflected in my savings? What you have to do is have a realistic approach to saving so that you can be consistent every single month and you not have the need to dip into your savings because you forgot to account for something, but also the consistency stacks proof that you can do it. You see the money going up, so it mirrors your hard work, and you feel this like confidence and this, it's like exhilarating to be like, yeah, I'm putting in the hard work and look, here are the results. The results are the equivalent of my hard work. That is what is going to motivate you to keep going. It's like a motivation feedback loop. If you don't feel like you're getting the results, you're going to stop. You're going to be tired of it and you're going to be like, what the hell? And then you're going to start blaming everyone but yourself. And you're going to start going, it's the system. It's because the cost of living is going up. It's because the government aren't, subsidizing or whatever. You're going to find all of these things because you're like, I'm putting in the hard work. I feel it. I feel it every day. I know I'm putting in the hard work. And then the blame shifts to outside of you, and then you're going to fall into a trap where you're never going to realize that the problem is actually your behavioral mindset and not accounting for the tiny little things that make you fall outside of your budget. Not accounting for the things that feel like little things, but they're actually kind of big. Brunch with your friend actually set you back almost $50. Those drinks that night, $100. The little things, the friend's birthday that you forgot to account for, $200. Those little things are actually big things, even though they feel little. The best way to do this that we have found, and this I had doubted our system. I really found myself doubting our system because we didn't have any income coming in. And I was like in such, I don't know, denial or what, I don't know. We were in the state of trauma. So we couldn't see clearly, but I was looking at it going, it's not working. This system's not working. And it's like, because I literally brought home $20,000 over 6 months. For a family of 3. Like, of course the system wasn't working. You can't physically make $20,000 stretch that far. And at that point, I really do understand the argument that like you can't save yourself out of poverty, or you can't save yourself to wealth. Like, you really do need to have income, and then from that income you need to put it into investing. Like, you can't just save. So you have to also remember that this saving system is not just to save, it is a tool to use to then invest your money. The best way to do it, what we have found, is to review your habits and get really real with yourself. Really understand your behavior. What do you value? Do you love going out with your friends? Do you really love going out for dinner? Do you really love going out for coffee with a friend, or even just like sitting at a cafe doing some work and like having that me time? What are your values when it comes to spending? Because we all have them. Even those people who say money doesn't matter to them, we all have values when it comes to spending. And so you need to understand what yours are, and everyone's going to be a little bit different. The way to understand what your values are is to review your spending, because we can think our values are one thing, but our actions show that it is something else. We can think, I really value saving money and I really value wealth building, but then you are spending all of your extra money on clothes, you're spending all of your extra money on going out, on traveling, but you're thinking that you really value wealth building at this phase of your life. So then those two things become incongruent. They become at tension with each other. And what happens when our mind and our values are misaligned with our actions? We feel shame, we feel tension, we feel uncomfortable, we feel miserable, and we feel like this life isn't for us and we're never going to get to our dream life. So it's really important to look at your actions, because your actions will actually speak your values. They will tell you what your values are. That's not to say that you don't have then some control to change it. Like, you can look at that and be like, oh, I'm spending heaps more on coffee than I actually really care. Like, I'm just doing it out of habit, or I'm just doing it without really thinking about it, but I don't really care. I actually really like the coffee I can make at home. You might find that and you go, I'm spending a lot of money on something I don't care. I actually really, it doesn't bring me a lot of joy. It's just habit, or it's just because other people are doing it. So once you review, then you can go, oh, okay, well, I don't actually care about that. There's an extra $30 every week where I'm not buying my coffee every day. Sometimes it's a bit weird when you go out for coffee and you don't buy coffee, but you don't have to. If someone suggests going out for coffee, it's because they want coffee, or it's the thing to do. So A, you can suggest, oh, well, actually, I'm trying to save money. Do you want to just go for a walk instead? Or you can, if they really want coffee, you can go, they can buy coffee and you can just sit with them. It's actually not that weird. I have done it before when I've been saving money and I don't want to buy coffee, but other people are buying coffee. You just go, that's okay. And it's you feel weird. You'll feel weird for like 2 minutes and then you'll start chatting and you won't care anymore. Yes, there are ways to change your behavior to align with what you think your values are. But you have to be really real with yourself. Like, you can't be like really cherish that coffee time, that time at a cafe, and then be like, oh, well, that doesn't align with my goals and my values, so I'm just going to cut it out, because you will find yourself back there and you'll find yourself at a constant crossroads, or a constant like incongruency with your values. So you have to be really real with yourself, and you have to really reflect and analyze your behavior and be like, does that bring me joy? Doesn't it? Does that align with what my values are? Doesn't it? And like really work from that place. Once you have picked the things that you want to spend money on, once you have picked, like, travel's really important to me, for example, you set up a travel account and you make sure that every month you're putting money towards travel, so that when it does come time to have a trip, and like, let's face it, there are only a very small percentage of people in the world who plan for a trip. For a lot of us, those trips are quite spontaneous and they're like, yeah, fuck it, let's do it. Let's just go, you know? So, but imagine if a trip opportunity came up and you had money saved there, ready for it. And then you didn't have to pull out of your savings that is for a property. Once you have your values set up and you know what you want to save for, then you set up little buckets, little sinking funds to put money aside for that every single month. The other key parts of this strategy is to account for yearly expenses every single pay period. So whether you get paid fortnightly or monthly, I'll probably just fall into saying monthly because that's when we get paid, but depending on your pay period, you take your yearly expenses. Car registration, for example. We know that car registration comes around every single year, and yet all of us act like it's a surprise. Like, we have forgotten that, yes, we actually do need to pay for this every single year. So what we do, and what really works wonders, is we take say it's $1,200 for the car registration and insurance, then we split that over 12 months. So it's $100 a month that we need to be putting aside, so that when car registration time comes up, we don't have to take from our savings. We can take from our car registration sinking fund. And in that sinking fund, we also put aside a little bit extra, because car registration is not just car registration. It's car registration and any other repairs that you need to do in order to make your car roadworthy. New tires, servicing. What else makes a car roadworthy? Not sure. New tires is a big one. We put aside a little bit extra. So we guess maybe it's going to be like a $2,000 maintenance fee. I don't know. I can't remember what we guessed. But you kind of estimate how much your maintenance fee will be for your car, and you put aside a little bit extra. So $100 for maintenance, $100 for rego, and like say $40 for maintenance, for example. You put that money aside every month so that when it comes up, You're not taking money out of your property savings. This system alone brings so much peace, because remember what we're investing in property for? We're investing in property so that we can get closer to financial freedom of time, and financial peace, so that we're not stressed about providing for our family, for providing basic living expenses, for being able to give them time and not be stressed about it. Peace. We want financial peace. That is the goal. So this system kind of gets us there in the short term, because already we don't feel any stress when it comes to registration time. The money's there. It's literally the least painful experience ever. It's like the most painful thing about it is actually having to get your car checked. The money side of it, it doesn't matter. The money's right there. We just transfer it over. There's no pain involved, because it's like, that's what the money's for. It's there. We don't have to scramble to get it, and we don't have to feel the guilt or shame of taking it out of our savings. I have a whole video on my channel from a few years ago, how to set up this budgeting system. I do it for single people, and I do another video for married couples. And I think you should have a look at it, because I go into detail of how to actually do the whole system. And it is really, really a fantastic way of saving. It brings so much peace to your everyday life, and it yields results in terms of actual savings. For the last 5 months, we have been able to have effectively no spend months, because we have all of our expenses budgeted for, including our valued spending. So for me, it's buying coffee. For Connor, it's being able to buy lunches every now and again at work with his colleagues. Or for example, he just decided to go to a Broncos game. He loves the Broncos. He grew up in Queensland. He decided to go to a Broncos game. The tickets were $70, so he took that money out of his lunch account, because he went, I'm actually happy to spend this money over my lunches. There is wiggle room to even bend your values within that, and you can still live your life without feeling like you're sacrificing on every front. Now, what I was saying about the decision fatigue and how we need to pre-make the decisions. This system allows for pre-making decisions, so that when it comes to the moment of spending, you can go, do I have money for that? Don't I? For example, you go, oh, I really want to be able to go out for coffee with this friend, blah, blah. You look at your account, no, we don't have money for that. So you go, oh no, but you can come over, or we can go for a walk. The decision is kind of pulled out of it so that your emotions don't come in the way, and it's like all pre-made. Now, personally, because we're in such a sprint season, we have really eliminated a lot of our discretionary spending. We're not really buying any clothes. I'm not really buying skincare. We have our shared tub of CeraVe moisturizing cream. We have limited entertainment funds. Everything has been quite stripped back, I will say. When you have a system like this, the filtration system and all of the sinking funds, it becomes very clear where a lot of your money is going. And for us, a lot of our spending or overspending is really going to groceries, to eating out, to our stomachs, basically. Especially with the cost of groceries becoming so expensive. Month on month, I am seeing price increases at the grocery shops. It's pretty wild to me how quickly the prices are going up. And it feels really, really hard to save money in that area of food and grocery shops, especially when you have children and you're like, I just need to feed my family. So we have a few rules that we follow when it comes to grocery shopping, and this really helps us to save as much money as we can. The first thing is no name brand everything. Honestly, this is the first way to halve your grocery bill. The price difference between no-name brands and brand name food products is wild to me, especially when you realize that a lot of the products that are no-name brand are actually the same product, made in the same factory, packaged in the same factory as some of these brand name products. Obviously, there are a few products that are healthier options, that actually taste better if you go with the brand name. So we allow ourselves a few exceptions that we always know we go with the brand name. But these exceptions I can count on one hand. Ideally, we would have way more exceptions because there are a lot of things that we absolutely love that are a particular brand name. But at the end of the day, right now, it is our priority to save as much money as we can. And so we're willing to make that sacrifice in the short term where we're buying food that maybe doesn't taste as good for the purpose of saving as much money as we can. The second rule that we have is absolutely no pre-made food. We cook everything. We do not get convenience food. There's no shame in buying convenience food, and I'm not trying to shame anyone who does that. I especially know mums, parents, you're just trying to get through the week. I get it. I get it fully. This is just a way of us saving money. This is a rule that we follow in order for us to save money. If you find that it's not possible, I am in no way shaming you. This is just a rule that we follow so that we can cut back our spending. I will say we do every now and again buy a pre-made hot chicken on like a weekend, and then that lasts us through for some lunches. Definitely just want to run that home. There is no shame in buying convenience pre-made food. It's just something that we have noticed really amps up the grocery bill, and so we have cut that out for the intention of keeping our groceries as low as possible. We have also found a few really, really basic but super tasty meals that are very cheap to make, and they have become our go-tos. For example, one of my absolute favorites is what we call tuna pasta. It's literally onion, dried basil, canned tomatoes with then like a little bit of salt and sugar, a can of tuna in spring water, like a big can, and like whatever vegetables you have in your fridge, celery, capsicum, broccoli, whatever vegetables you can chuck in, zucchini, and spiral pasta. Then just like put a little bit of cheese on top. Oh, it is so good. It is like the most delicious, hearty meal. Good for summer, good for winter. I love it. I love it. We have it almost every single week for lunches, for dinner. It's so cheap and so filling and tasty and just like hits the spot. There are also some really cheap curried lentil dishes, which when we were first married was our go-to, but we realized that lentils make us feel really, really sick, which is so annoying because I absolutely love lentils. They're so good for you and they're so tasty and they're so cheap. So if you can eat lentils, find yourself a good curried lentil dish. Oh, life-changing. You can freeze them too. Third rule that we follow is limited meat. It really blows out the budget. So we really try to make sure that we're not having, steak and veggies all of the time. That's like a once a month kind of meal when I'm on my period normally, and suddenly my body is like, give me some iron, please. I think when it comes to grocery shopping, it's so easy to look at your groceries, what you normally buy, and be like, I don't know how I could cut this out. But I think like if you approach it with like, I'm going to go with the absolute cheapest of everything that I can, and then make some crucial swaps, I think that's the best way to do it. Because if you approach it from the other way, like you're going to feel like you can't take any of your like standard purchases out. I'm not saying that like that is going to save your grocery bill, because honestly, even doing those three things, your groceries are still going to be expensive. Like it's just how it is at the moment, and it's really hard. It's one of the toughest things to save money on. Oh, another thing is like it's a real debate at the moment as to whether Aldi is actually cheaper than the other grocery shops. I have done a direct comparison for the last few months. It is 100, actually for like the last year since Henry was born. Almost the last 2 years. I keep forgetting he's almost 2. I've done a direct comparison. Aldi is definitely cheaper for majority of things, not for everything. You can't go to Aldi and be like, everything's going to be cheaper. It's not everything. It's just for a lot of things, it is cheaper. My friend had this genius idea, which I just absolutely love. What she does to make sure that she's getting the cheapest option and not having to go to 2 grocery shops is she gets her Coles or Woolies app and adds everything to her cart that she feels like she needs. Then she goes to Aldi, and as she's going through the aisles of Aldi, she's checking against her cart and making sure that she's getting the cheaper version at Aldi. And then for anything that isn't at Aldi but was actually cheaper at Coles or Woolies, she just presses place order and then it'll get delivered. It's actually so clever. It's so clever. It would probably take a little bit longer at Aldi as you're going through the aisles, but like worth it if you're going to save a lot of money. I just think that that's such a good tip. I love that so much. But yeah, groceries are a really tough one. I do think that it's something we have to be conscious about. Like if you want to save money and if you're like in a sprint season the way we are, you do really have to be conscious about it and you have to make conscious decisions. So I think it's all about like just really trying to find the cheapest way of doing things that bring you joy and be willing to hunt and to make those little sacrifices, like not having the absolute best. But it really comes down to your values and where you're willing to cut things out. We have taken it a step further this next month because we have just decided that we are trying to accelerate our path. Well, we are done feeling like we have no money. We are done feeling like we are behind and like we have been in a place of financial stress for a long time. Go back and listen to my original videos of this podcast if you want to learn more about that, why we found ourselves in that position. There was a lot of trauma and stress involved. So yeah, go and listen to those original 2 or 3 episodes of the podcast. It'll give you a bit of a background into what happened. So we're pretty committed. We're like, I would so much rather go really hard right now for the next year than be in this like limbo phase where we're not really getting ahead but we're not really enjoying life either for the next 5 years. Like, I'd rather just go hard now. We have locked in and we are saving hardcore, and we kind of thought that we were already saving hardcore. We thought we had really tightened up, but we did have wriggle room, which was great, and that is how you do it. That's how we were able to do it for the last 5 months, because we had wriggle room and we still had entertainment money and we still had coffee money in. But we have tightened it. So last night we sat down and we went through the budget and found ways for the next 4 weeks. And we know it's only 4 weeks. It will probably do it again the next month, depending on how this feels. But right now we know it's 100% only for the next 4 weeks. So it's a lot easier to lock in and to go really hard in a short time frame. It's like if you knew you had to sprint for 100 meters, you would be able to like sprint. But if you were like, I'm going to sprint as hard as I can for 800 meters, I feel like your body would actually kind of like pull you back. You wouldn't be able to go at your 100 meter pace, right? So the idea right now is that we are going sprint. We're going like the hardest sprint for only 4 weeks. We're giving ourselves a timeline. And like giving yourself a timeline when it comes to budgeting your money and saving and working out a spend plan, giving yourself a timeline on how long you're going to be in this season for is crucial, because it's all about your psychology and like whether you feel like there's a light at the end of the tunnel or not. Whether you feel like this is just now my life forever and I'm going to be in a space of like self-deprivation forever. Am I going to deprive myself of joy forever? Or is it just for a season? You know, it's a lot easier to do it and to mentally say okay, to agree with yourself if you know it's only for a short time. That is how I would recommend going about saving for a deposit. Obviously not that last bit. That was just what we're doing currently for the next month, but not what we're doing in the long term. Know that it's possible. Know what sort of system you're going to follow. 20% or 10%, LMI, no LMI, guarantor. What profession are you in? Does that mean you don't have to pay LMI? Know those options. Work out how much you actually need, because saving aimlessly, it's not going to work. You need clarity. Know how long you're going to do it for, because again, you need those boundaries. Your brain needs boundaries. Otherwise it goes, ugh, it's too hard. So it needs the boundaries. You need to know the time limit as well. Set up a realistic, intentional spend plan, which involves accounting for all realistic expenses and not being overly ambitious with your savings, so that you can be consistent every single month and you can have that momentum spiral and continually be motivated to keep going and you don't burn out. And 4, I haven't said this yet, but I think 4 is like celebrate your wins. So if you do enter a sprint season, for example, we locked in and did a sprint season for the last 5 months, and we said at the beginning of that, we were like, okay, if we can achieve a savings account of $25,000 by January, if we can get to that point, we will go away for our anniversary. So we gave ourselves a little like a mini goal, and I think like celebrating those wins as you go really helps. And like watch your savings account grow, watch it happen, check in and be like, we just put aside $4,000. Look at that. Every little bit of money helps you feel like it's growing. I also think on that though, like maybe check it like at a set time throughout the month. So rather than like checking every day, because then you might feel like, oh, it's not growing. But like by the end of the month, once you have your pay periods come through, like, so if you're fortnightly, you'll have 2 pay periods. If you're monthly, you'll have a big chunk. Once you see that, it'll have more of an impact. But like, yeah, check your savings account monthly. It'll do wonders for your motivation and for you to be able to keep going. By the way, we actually meet for coffee every single week and you are so welcome. I'm so happy you're here today. At our catch-ups, we share our wins and our losses as we're on the journey to financial freedom, on the journey to living out our absolute dream life, having time for our children and the people around us, because time is our most valuable resource. Our goal in life is to be outrageously generous with both resources and time. We talk all about getting into the property market for the first time, navigating a new career as a first-time mum, saving money and building wealth. We talk a little bit about business dreams and goals. It's a place where we both walk away feeling so warm and fulfilled and inspired, ready to take on the week. I'm so happy that you're here and that you're joining us for coffee. Can't wait to see you next week.